What's up YouTube? I'm Vaughn and this is the Gear channel where we discuss collectibles, hobbies, competitive games from tabletop to video games, and today we are reviewing Cygor, but not really. It's actually the McFarlane story's Cygor, which is half cyborg, half gorilla. Makes sense. Now the market price for this figure is about $60, where it seems kind of steep, but it's actually a pretty massive figure. Not as big as this guy, but still pretty big with nice detail. Now before we get started, friendly reminder as always to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel a lot and I do really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get started. Here is Cygor. Now, off the bat, I would tell you that aesthetically he looks amazing, but there is a few issues with this figure. So I'm just going to go run it quick. So definitely it does not have any accessories at all besides the base. So that's not a real big deal breaker when dealing with these massive McFarlane toys. But when it comes to articulation, there is definitely a lot of questionable like joints, but also you could tell that this is a figure that's definitely going to break within time. So we're going to definitely take a close-up look and then after going to the posability, and we're going to show you exactly which part you have to be very careful on. Taking a close-up look at the head sculpt, we can clearly see it just looks amazing. So the paint application is quite well. There's definitely no complaint about the aesthetics of it. You're going to see that maybe there is some parts of the lower half that could definitely have been adjusted. So when we take a close look at the lower half, we could clearly see there's a bit of an issue with the pelvis. Now it's definitely not the same material as the rest. It's very rubbery and it doesn't really hold tightly, so it does leave quite a bit of gaps that we're going to show you in the articulation part. But the paint application is alright. It just seems that they gave up towards the lower half of it. Now let's go into articulation. So since he's quite big, we're going to have to pretty much hold him during the whole video of articulation. So we're going to start with the head. So take a close up over here. So it's actually on a ball joint. I'm not sure if you guys could actually see over here. So it could definitely go all the way down, leave this nice little gap over here, and then go back up, no issue. You could actually turn it quite well when the head is all the way down, so there's no issue with posability over there. Now when we get to the shoulders, they could go out. So this side pretty much just that much. And then for rotation, it doesn't rotate that much. Like we could go up here. This one's really limited. So you can't really do that much rotation backwards. You definitely can. But it's mostly this one. But that's why it's ironic because even though this one's limited by its shoulder and this one's not, when we talk to the elbow, this one doesn't have any limitations, but this one definitely does, and this is the one that you have to be very careful. So if we actually go over here, you're going to see that we have these wires connected, which is an issue because it doesn't stretch. And if you want to use the bicep over here, this is an issue because now you're stretching this out, so this part could break very easily. So the most you could bend is only by this much. So that's definitely a big issue for that. But if we look at the other arm over here, you could do a full bend, and there is some cool possibility that you could have done, like him beating his chest like a gorilla usually do, but you can't because this arm is completely stuck open. So the hands could definitely rotate, go backwards and forward, so that's not really that bad. Now we're going to go to the worst part, which is definitely over here. So if you look over here, it's just a rubber thing, very loose, not nice at all, and it leaves gaps everywhere that if you put them forward, because it's on a ball joint, so it leaves gaps here. If you want to hide that part, it's going to leave gap over there, which I don't like either. Then for the legs, it doesn't really move much over here, so if we actually go, it's not really well rotated, and look at that, more gaps. And then we have the feet over here that doesn't really do much. There's some rotation, barely any pivoting that you could do over here, but for posability, it's very terrible. And those parts that I mentioned over there that you have to be very careful with, Like, that is something that in time will eventually break. Now, with that out of the way, I think it's about time we check some size comparisons. Here he is next to the throne spawn. Now, I do actually really like this height. I think it's pretty comic book accurate, so I have no complaint with the size of Cygor. Here he is next to Overkill. Now, surprisingly, Overkill is actually quite big, so I was very surprised to see the size difference. And I kind of wish that they actually redo the Overkill with a much more like original comic book look. And finally, here he is next to Violator, which is still an extremely huge figure. And that's it for our review of Cygor. Now, if you guys enjoyed today's video, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. And if you want a sneak peek of future products we're planning to review here on the channel, you can follow me on my Instagram, VaughnGear. I'm Vaughn, and this was the Gear Channel.